This week in East Brunswick, we'll hear the Nick Santoro Brass in a concert given at the Gazebo on the Municipal Building lawn last Monday. Next, we'll stop in at a meeting sponsored by St. Peter's Medical Center held in the library concerning colorectal cancer. Then we go to the East Brunswick Museum to view an exhibit of elephants owned by former New Jersey Governor Harold Hoffman. All of this followed by our regular features. Ken Shalhoub's Health Facts, today an AIDS update. Animal Care, with Mike Mansfield's advice on keeping squirrels out of your house. And consumer advocate Adrian Eisner has information on Yellow Page advertising. But first, a look at next week's Channel 8 schedule. Monday at 10 a.m., it's Look Great, Feel Great with Lenore Kulik making an exercise video for women. At 10:30, an Our Town special with Sue Rosenblatt taking you aboard a luxury yacht. Tuesday at 7 p.m., it's Check It Out, the monthly library program produced by the Libraries of Middlesex. At 7:30, John Megliaro gives you a close-up look at modified stock cars with race driver Bill Dubovic. And at 8, Paul Hansen brings you information on home ownership with his guest, Gloria Zatsko, on You and Your Money. Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m., it's Reading Rainbows, the popular PBS-produced show for kids. At 7:30, For Art's Sake, host Dolly Vasta interviews Donald Streibig, the director of the New Brunswick Cultural Center, about the artistic outlook for the area. And we'll be back Thursday night at 7 and 8 with an all-new This Week in East Brunswick. And be sure to check the Channel 8 schedule for repeats of these shows. Now let's go to the Gazebo on the Municipal lawn to hear the Nick Santoro Brass. Now let's go learn something about colorectal cancer. Last Thursday, a group of doctors based at St. Peter's Medical Center in New Brunswick gave a presentation at the library on colorectal cancer. Participants in the discussion were given a packet containing literature on the disease as well as a self-test kit to help with early detection. After the program, we spoke with Dr. Stephen Lenger of the Gastroenterology Department at St. Peter's. Could you explain what are the signs and symptoms of colon and rectal cancer?
Well, the early signs and symptoms can vary quite a bit. Usually there's blood that's found in the stool, but quite often that is not gross blood. It's blood that's found in the stool on examination by your physician, or now they have over-the-counter kits that may be detected, may be bought, and early signs of bleeding in the stool, though not visible to the eye, can be found with chemical solutions. Gross rectal bleeding is also not that uncommon, but may be a sign of other types of colonic problems, including something as simple as a hemorrhoid. However, any sign of rectal bleeding should probably prompt a visit to your physician so he can determine if any further workup is important. Other signs and symptoms may include unexplained weight loss, change in your bowel habits, either to diarrhea or constipation. It doesn't necessarily have to be constipation alone. And the feeling when you go to move your bowels sometimes of incompletely evacuating yourself, that you feel as if you may not have finished moving your bowels, and that also could be an early sign of colon and rectal cancer.
Who's at risk for this type of cancer?
The people at risk are generally the people over the age of 40, but there are a high-risk group. These are people who have a prior history of either colon cancer or polyps in the colon, which are pre-malignant conditions, patients with a strong family history of colon and rectal cancer, females with a history of breast cancer or genital cancer are at high risk. In addition, patients who have a history of ulcerative colitis for greater than 7 years and involves most of the colon are also at a higher risk.
Okay, what are some early methods of detection on this?
Well, there are 3 recommended methods. The first, starting at approximately age 40, is a yearly rectal examination and a yearly check of your stool for blood. And this, as I mentioned, there are 2 ways to do. One is having a physician do a rectal examination at the same time checking your stool for blood, have them give you some cards on which you place several stool specimens and send it into the physician's office, and he places a solution on there to check for blood. In addition, as I mentioned, the over-the-counter kits that are now available, some of which are patient-reliant. In other words, the patient has to determine themselves if there's a change in color, or is then sent into the physician's office for further evaluation.
Okay, and if there is an abnormality found, what's the next step after
Well,
that?
there's actually one more method in early screening, and that's starting at around age 45. For the first 2 years, a sigmoidoscopic examination, which can either be a rigid sigmoidoscopic examination or preferably with the further development of the fiber optic scopes, a flexible sigmoidoscopic exam, which can go up to about 60 centimeters. The combination of all 3 of those is fairly accurate in picking up either pre-malignant or early malignancies. If something is found in during the detection, the patient finds these symptoms developing without having seen their physician, then the physician should then determine the evaluation, which should include either a colonoscopy or a barium enema, depending on the physician's ideas of how to proceed with the workup. The reason for the difference between the 2 basically is a barium enema is an X-ray evaluation that is done by a radiologist, evaluates with an enema using barium the entire colon, and is fairly accurate in picking up gross colonic lesions. The colonoscopy is done usually by a gastroenterologist. There are surgeons as well who do colonoscopies. The colonoscope is a flexible instrument that under medication is passed around the inside of the colon. If there are early lesions seen, such as polyps, those can usually be removed with the colonoscope. If they cannot be removed with the colonoscope, then the person will need surgery. And it should really be remembered that if somebody does require surgery for either a very large polyp, which is pre-malignant, or an actual malignancy, that this does not necessarily mean that the person is going to be left with a colostomy, a bag. What it does mean is that only about 10 to 15% will be left with a colostomy, depending on the size of the lesion. And what we hope to do with early screening and making people more aware is to prevent this from happening and catching these cancers early, because colon cancer is a curable lesion if caught early. early enough, 80 to 90% of patients with colon cancer can be cured. But later on, there's a very high mortality as the colon cancer spreads and becomes widely spread out throughout the body.
Hello, I'm John Runyon, president of the East Brunswick Museum Corporation. We're here today at the East Brunswick Museum where our current exhibit is Golden Periods of New Jersey Ceramics, which has received regional attention in the New York Times, Star-Ledger, and other Central Jersey newspapers. But the reason we're here today is to talk about the elephant collection of Governor Harold Hoffman. This fabulous collection was recently loaned to the East Brunswick Museum by Governor Hoffman's daughter, Mrs. Hope Cross of West Bend, Wisconsin. Governor Hoffman was a Republican and served as governor of New Jersey from 1935 until 1938. It's only logical then that he might collect elephants, which is the symbol of the Republican Party. Governor Hoffman gained great notoriety through his involvement in the Lindbergh case, for he felt that Bruno Richard Hoffman, who was executed for the murder of the Lindbergh baby, perhaps was innocent. But this elephant collection is fabulous, absolutely fabulous. We have elephants here, nearly 1,000 of them, of every known substance: teak wood, coconut wood, metal, bronze, silver, hundreds in ivory. I have one in my hand which is made of wood, carved of wood actually, by a gentleman especially for Governor Hoffman. The wood from which this elephant was carved came from the front porch of President Garfield. Garfield, of course, being a Republican as well. Governor Harold Hoffman was especially fond of and proud of this small wooden elephant from the materials of President Garfield's home. This wonderful exhibit can be seen at the East Brunswick Museum on Saturdays and Sundays from 1:30 to 4. If you have a group that would like a group tour of the museum to see this exhibit and our ceramics exhibits, you might call 254-7329. We hope that you won't miss this absolutely unique exhibit of elephants collected by Governor Harold and Mrs. Lily Hoffman. Thank you for joining us at the museum.
An AIDS update. Things are beginning to get a bit complicated concerning AIDS. AIDS patients are already known to have very few T4 cells, the white blood cells that recognize and respond to foreign proteins and thus activate the immune system. Now researchers at the National Institute of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, have found that the T4 cells from AIDS victims have an intrinsic defect in their ability to recognize and respond to soluble antigen. Says a report by H. Clifford Lane and colleagues in the July 11th New England Journal of Medicine. Also, AIDS virus seems to replicate only in T4 cells. Thus, although the disease has a multitude of symptoms and effects, the action of the virus appears to be very specific. The researchers suggest that when time comes that the progress of AIDS can be halted, they will need some method of reconstituting the immune system, and this new information may help them. Other studies have also shown that the antibodies from the blood of AIDS patients is effective against the AIDS virus, which is a good sign. Now, on the new blood testing front, of more than 1 million blood units reported, tabulated by the FDA, 0.85% were initially positive, but only 0.25% were positive on repeat testing. And in an American Cross CDC analysis of 2,552 repeatedly reactive specimens, only 23% of those were positive by a more exact but more difficult confirmatory test. Now, considering that this blood test was developed in only 9 months, it seems to be doing a pretty great job, and more specific tests are on the way using the benefits of molecular biology. So, although the AIDS front sounds grim when you hear it on the news a lot, there's a lot of things happening, and there are a lot of developments going on. So I'll keep you posted on Health Facts.
Hello, I'm Special Officer Mike Mansfield, East Brunswick Animal Control. I want to take a couple minutes of your time to talk about the squirrels and the problems they can cause around your home and how to solve them. This time of year, our calls for squirrels average 2 to 3 a day. In most cases, it's squirrels running around in basements or running around in living rooms and kitchens. The main entranceway for all squirrels into homes is to sit on top of the chimney on the cool nights and cool early morning when it gets warm, and they fall down the chimney and can't get out again. They come back down through the furnace and end up in your basement, or they would come out through the fireplace if the damper was open and would be sitting in your fireplace, or if you had a wire screen, they would end up in your living room. The best thing you can do to keep the squirrels out of your house is to make sure that all your chimneys have caps on them. You either can make homemade caps out of what's called hardware cloth and wrap the tops, or you can buy professionally made caps that just slip right on. Other than that, you should never be concerned about the squirrels on your property. There's thousands of squirrels in town, and each one has their little niche. And if you were to remove all the squirrels on your property, in a week's time it would be completely full with other squirrels looking for a place to live. They don't carry rabies. There's no known cases of rabies in squirrels, so you don't need to be concerned about that. One of the problems people complain about is they're digging up their lawns. Well, what they're doing is they're burying acorns all over the place so that in the middle of the winter when they come out of their sleep that they'll have a place to get something to eat. But normally they forget where they buried them. And so they have storage places in the trees and in the front lawn, in your chimney. Another way squirrels get in is they do love to live in attics, and they'll come in either through the vents on the roof, on the sides of your home. They'll come in through roof attics, and they'll come in along the soffit on the gutters. To prevent them coming in through these areas into your home, you should also use hardware cloth or a soft metal and just seal all the holes up. If they're already in there and you want to get them out, sprinkle mothballs all over the attic, a lot of mothballs, 4, 5, 6 boxes. Chase them out of the attic. You could also put a radio on with talk radio, which the steady sound of talking makes them nervous, and that will also drive them out. Once they're all running out, then you run up and plug the holes up, and that should solve your problem with squirrels. If you have any other questions about squirrels, please call me at 390-6960. Remember, we have to try and live with all the little critters. They were here first. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrienne Eisner of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. Many of us often use the yellow pages of the telephone book for shopping. Today we're going to be talking about some tips you should follow when you let your fingers do the walking. First of all, ask questions. You should request information that may not be included in the ad. Ask for the names of the persons to whom you speak and where they may be reached in person. Inquire about estimates and contracts, prices and credit details, service and repairs, guarantees, warranties, and licensing. Read the ad carefully. Do not look at size alone. Scrutinize the factual information contained in the ad. Investigate such terms as authorized, certified, licensed, and guarantees. These have specific meanings which should be understood by the buyer. Ask the advertiser to explain these terms to you. For example, what are the conditions of the guarantee? What is the advantage of dealing with an authorized dealer? Shop around. Get several prices. Compare quality and terms. Consult other consumers, neighbors, and friends wherever possible. Ask the company for references from satisfied customers. Study any contract before you sign it. New Jersey Bell, as publishers of the Yellow Pages, states that they will not knowingly accept misleading or unethical advertising. If wording not meeting its standards is found, they will investigate. If you discover any misleading or unethical statements in Yellow Page advertising, you can call New Jersey Bell's Consumer Hotline, toll-free, at 1-800-624-0657. That's 1-800-624-0657. A form will be sent to you requesting the facts surrounding your complaint. Complaints regarding the quality of an advertiser's service or product should be filed as usual with the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. Call us if you need more information. Our telephone number is 390-6954. Our office is in the Municipal Building. We're there Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware. Please join us again next week.
That's all for this week. Thanks for watching.